This is the last in my saga of trying to put a tyre on a tubeless-ready wheel. Yeah, I only got a tubeless-ready wheel about a year ago, and I think this is my third tyre on one, because the first one just kept puncturing, so I changed to a Continental contact speed, but I had problems with that as well. So I'm back in the old Lithion 2. This is an old one I had lying around the house. Probably bought it from Decathlon years ago. But old trusty, as I would call it, because I never used to get punctures with these. In fact, these tyres were so good with punctures that I was blowing my old inner tube too high on my old bike, and something had to give, and the wheel gave, so my actual wheel blew rather than the tyre, because the inner tube was getting pumped up too high. I wonder if I'm the only person that's happened to. Michelin Lithion 2. They now have a 3, which is meant to be a bit better. I mean, it's a cheap tyre, you're probably less than £25, probably a lot less, under 20. I used to get them from Decathlon. I used to go to Decathlon saying, right, I'm going to get a 32mm tyre for comfort. But I always ended up getting Lithium 2, even though they're only 25mm wide. And they're 622 size. I'm calling them 622 Etro. Forget all that 700C and 20 inch or even 28 inch, I don't know. We're going by the Etro thing. Yeah, back to fitting this in a tubeless wheel. It was surprisingly easy to fit, and I don't know if that's because it's an old tyre that it's shaped and the sidewalls are a bit softer. I don't know, but it was just as easy as try to get it onto a clincher tyre that isn't tubeless ready. Because as I've said before, tubeless ready tyres I think are a lot tighter. Because if you put a tube tyre on, they want it to be really, really tight. So even if you're putting a clincher tyre on, it's going to be really tight. I still had problems getting one side over. So that's not something I usually have on a clincher tyre. So I still had that problem. But compared to the problems I've had previously with the tubeless wheel, it was a lot easier. And this tyre's always good because it looks good on the wheel, like it always fits. You can tell there's not going to be any problems. Like my Continental contact never felt right, although that was a 32mm tyre. It never felt right, and it got a bit of a bobble, and that's never a good sign. And in the end, that bobble turned into a ripped sidewall. And as I said before, my Continental contact tyre stuck to the side of one of the wheel rims. I've never had that problem before. I think it's another tubeless ready problem, or a tubeless wheel problem you'll have if you're using inner tubes and clincher tyres. That's not something I've ever had a problem before with a clincher tyre. So yeah, so this went on really well, and I just wanted to show you. But now they do a Lithium 3. I would probably just buy that now. I don't know why they still sell the two of them. Maybe there's some reason, I don't know. It's still on the Michelin site. I mean, buying tyres is a nightmare because there's so many, and I don't know. I mean, I would even look at the Wiggle Lifeline brand. I don't know if it's Wiggle on that brand. I think it is. Although I've seen them on eBay as well. But I'd probably, if this one bursts or punctures in any way, I'm going to try the Lifeline Prime Armour, because it's just sort of bulletproof, really, I think. So yeah, so that's my problems over for now, and I had to put in an old thingy. These are like £4 out of Decathlon now. This is Decathlon's own brand. This is an old one that I had lying around. So I had to check it for punctures first, you know, the usual. Yeah, it's the old screw type, even though it's a Presta, because they don't really do that anymore on the racing bikes, this sort of thing. Yeah, and I use this to pump it up, compressor, I recommend these. This was like £30 off of eBay 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I mean, you can get smaller ones, but they're a lot dearer than that. Yeah, so that's my wheel shenanigans over for a moment. Unless this one, of course, bursts or something. And they even fitted there in a tube, it really fitted easily as well, which surprised me. You know, because there's no space in there. It's not like the old clincher tyres. And tubeless-ready, there's no space. I mean, you've got to use every trick you can with these because they're so tight, you know. Maybe even putting liquid soap over the side to try and get it over. Make sure you keep when you're putting it on, to put the side in the middle so that you're taking all the space that you've got rather than having it at the side where, you know, it's raised a bit. All these sort of things. I mean, I end up massaging these tyres more than I think, well, more than you should, really. Because I'll keep trying to put the bead into the middle, all that sort of stuff. Alright guys, that's my... So I'll see how this goes. It'll probably explode or something tomorrow and that'll be me back to... Because this is the back wheel. I would prefer to have a 32mm wide tyre at the back. These Michelin Lithion only go up to 25 at the moment, I think. 23 and 25mm, which is a bit old fashioned now because like the Tour de France riders aren't even riding that level anymore. Well, most of them aren't. Most of them have went up to about 28 at the front, maybe front and back, but maybe even 28 at the front and 32 at the back, you know, because they've abandoned the sort of lighter thing and the thinner is better. Because even 10 years ago, professional cyclists were going for lightweightness. But now they've found out that things like rolling resistance and aerodynamics is more important. So they sort of abandoned the lightweight stuff and they're going for aerodynamics now. But now they're starting to bring in lightweight as well, a bit. But mostly aerodynamics, because aerodynamics knows if you're going fast. So for most cyclists I would still say lightweight's better, because if you're just going about touring or doing long distance run or even commute runs or whatever, you're not trying to break the world speed record, you know what I mean? Because aerodynamics only really comes into it for speed, I think. I'm talking ignorantly here. Yeah, most of us I think still want lightweight because we want to get up hills, basically. And apparently going uphill is better. Although I noticed that Pogacar on the time trial recently, he used a time trial bike for the flat and then a lightweight bike and a lightweight normal bike for a normal race bike for the hill. Whereas the other guy, Valnegard, just used a time trial the whole way and he beat him by a minute or something, Valnegard, so it didn't work out for him, did it? Like, but for most of us, you know, aerodynamics is for people who pedal downhill, you know. If you pedal downhill, then aerodynamics is for you. But if you're more the type that sticks your feet out when you're going downhill, you know, sit upright, then I think lightweight's better. But, you know, comfort's the most important thing. So for me, I'm at the back, I'm going for 32, but I'm going to have to do with 25 just now because it's all I had. I've ordered a Schwalbe 32mm. I saw a YouTube video about rolling resistance and the Schwalbe was about £18. I can't remember what it's called, Ultra or something. But it's meant to have a bit of puncture proof. I mean, for me, avoiding punctures is the main priority, but as much comfort as I can with you know. But there's so many to choose from, it's a nightmare, you know, it really is. The Lithion, like I say, I used it for years, mainly because any time I went to the Decathlon, I get confused and just always ended up buying a Michelin Lithion. But it's a really good tyre. I don't think I had a puncture in my old bike with it. I think I've had one with us, I don't know why. Using a Lithion. As I said, they're on a Lithion 3 now, so I would look out for that. And for grip and that, for puncture, the sidewalls are pretty hard on this as well, but it was still supple to get on. I found it surprisingly easy. I thought I was going to have a real struggle. Yeah, this won't lay you down, except it's skinny. That's the only problem, in my opinion. 25's the max, I think 25mm width. So yeah, but for grip and that, yeah, they're really good. The Lithion 3s may be even better, especially in the wet. But I mean, sometimes I go off trail, and you're not meant to in these, but they were alright. Because as you can see, it's got none of these sticky out things, you know. Alright, it makes a lot of noise, but it's worth it. I don't trust the pressure gauge, but I'm really glad I've got it. Fits Schrader and well, you need an adapter actually for a Presta. I think one came with it, but if not, you'll need to get one. I've ordered a TPU inner tube, which is really a plastic inner tube, and I'm really hoping, I'm really quite excited about this, because these butyl ones are about 120 grams. The TPU one that I've ordered is about 28 grams, and it's maybe pretty good for puncture resistance. So if it goes well, I just ordered it for eBay. I ordered a cheap one, £8 or something, brandless, within the UK. So I'll try that and I'll let you know. I think it's green or pink, I can't remember. Because the three types of inner tubes are butyl, which we mostly use, which are quite heavy, 120 grams. Some of them are, you can get really lightweight ones now, around about 50 grams or whatever, but they're maybe really fragile, you know, you can easily get a puncture in them, maybe do a pinch flat, I don't know. Then there's latex. They're really maybe nimble, but they don't hold air well, so you need to pump them up every time. But they're a bit lighter usually, they're about 50 grams to 70 grams or something. Professional cyclists like them. And now you've got TPU, which are around about 25 grams to 45 grams. But they're maybe pretty good for puncture resistance and that. So personally, I think there must be a chance that the TPUs are going to become the default ones for most days. Maybe even just because we like the idea, but I'll see how it goes. I hope I don't get any pinch flats or anything, you know. I wonder if any of the Tour de France guys are using it. Probably not actually, because they've mostly went to tubeless, I think. These Decathlon ones are like 113 grams. Maybe a bit more actually. Yeah, about that. When I talk about cycling, I'm not talking about road racing or anything, because I do a bit of off-road, only a bit. Easy trails and stuff, you know. But yeah, you get the idea. Wandering. This wheel is like just under 2 kilograms. Actually, it might be 1.5. Let's see. Not very accurate scales, you know. The Lithion are meant to be around 225 grams or something, so that's pretty light. But like I say, professional road cyclists now don't go by weight alone, they go by aerodynamics and rolling resistance and stuff.